Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to another show, another edition of The Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. Joining me today are my co-host, Read Bible, Dr. Sheila White, and Mike Patino has joined our team also this month. And welcome to The Lightning Strike. You can find out more information about the show on tlsradio.com. And today we got some special guests that would be joining us. And also for our person of the week, we had Jesse Jackson Jr. scheduled, but you all know what happened with his dad. And Dr. Sheila White is going to be paying a tribute to Jesse Jackson for all his services to the community, especially considering that this is Black History Month also. But
Yes.
we also have the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi joining us. His name is Tushar Gandhi. He will be joining us at 8:30. And our guest at 8:15 is going to be State Senator Mike Simmons, who is running for the 9th Congressional District in Illinois. We had invited him to our meetings last month, the panel that we had, and he was unable to join. So we are bringing him in today just to introduce him to you and let you know who he is and what he is running for. But today on the monologue, folks, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. There are moments in history when two souls separated by oceans speak the same moral language. One walked barefoot to the sea and challenged an empire with salt. The other marched across a bridge and challenged a nation with a dream. Mahatma Gandhi taught the world that nonviolence was not weakness, it was disciplined power. Martin Luther King Jr. proved that love, organized and courageous, could bend the arc of history. Gandhi faced colonial rule. King faced segregation. Both faced hatred. Both faced prison. Both faced bullets. Yet neither surrendered to bitterness. Especially what is happening in our world today and our country today. They understood something that we are in danger of forgetting, folks. Democracy is not sustained by force. It is sustained by moral courage. Today, in India, in America, and across the world, polarization is rising, especially if we listen to our so-called political leaders. Religious identity is weaponized. Nationalism is hardened. Voices grow louder and listening grows weaker. In this social media world that we are living in, we scroll faster, we rage quicker, we forgive less. And so the question before us this morning is not historical. It is urgent. It is today. What does nonviolence mean in an age of outrage? What does secular democracy require in a time of majoritarian politics? Can the beloved community, as defined by Martin Luther King Jr., survive in this algorithm age? Dr. King once asked, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Gandhi reminded us that an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. These were not poetic sentiments. They were survival strategies for democracy. Today, we explore whether their unfinished work still has power and whether we have the courage to carry it forward. And we are so fortunate that we will be joined by the great Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, Tushar Gandhi, at 8:30 on TLS Radio today. And this is the Lightning Strike, folks. And I want to bring in Dr. Sheila White to talk about the great Jesse Jackson Jr., Jesse Jackson, who just passed away. Dr. White.
Yes, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., who passed away. And in honor of Black History Month, we just want to take a moment of reflection with him. Jesse Jackson Sr., who was born in the segregated South to a single mother. He grew up being the sting of nobody, and he grew up with the sting of being a nobody in the eyes of the world. And the Black church was his laboratory that taught him that in God's eyes, everyone was somebody. And Jackson saw the images of the Bloody Sunday in the South, which a lot of people can remember. Jesse understood that faith without actions is dead. And he eventually joined Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to lead the economic crusades for fair wages and jobs. Jackson was on the balcony when Dr. King the Dreamer fell, a memory that I'm sure haunted him all of his life. He often said that he did not want to talk about that moment. And after that tragedy, Jesse decided to carry the torch. And for 60 years, he traveled and worked negotiating hostages from around the world. He preached a message of keep hope alive and I am somebody. His political runs paved the way for others. Even after he battled illness, he remained a servant leader, and he reminded others that the race for justice is not a long distance run, is a long distance run and not a sprint. He said a sermon was not just how you talked, but how you walked in the streets. And he challenges us today even to move from the pews to the pavement and show that no one should be overlooked or marginalized. Reverend Jackson was a pivotal figure in the American politics and activism for decades, and bridging the gap between the King era and the later movements, leaving a lasting impression on civil rights and social justice advocacy. We will miss him, we honor him, and we respect his family, and we look forward to continuing this movement of civil rights and activism in honor of this great man.
Thank you, Dr. White. And folks, you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. We'll be joined by State Senator Mike Simmons in about a couple of minutes. We'll take a quick break and be on the other side of the break. We'll come in with Senator Mike Simmons over here. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to call in, or you can text us at 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Calling all residential and commercial property owners. If you're like me, you're sick and tired of paying high electric bills, which, by the way, are on the rise. You're also probably unaware of the federal, state, and utility incentives that you qualify for. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. Again, 630-785-0031. Give Greenlight a call for a no-cost, no-obligation energy assessment, and we'll show you which federal, state, and utility incentives you qualify for. Again, 630-785-0031. Give us a call, 630-785-0031.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike. We are waiting for Mike Simmons to join us, and we have asked him to unmute and switch on his camera, waiting for him to respond to that. And meanwhile, if you have any questions for Senator Simmons as to who is, what he's running for, feel free to chime in. And this segment is always sponsored by Ray Hanania of rayhanania.com, and it's called What's on Your Mind. So if you want to join the conversation, 773-763-9278. You can either call us or you could text us. And if Mike Simmons is listening to us. If you could please unmute yourself, Mike, we are waiting for you to join the conversation. And I don't see that you're unmuted. So while we are waiting for Mike Simmons to join us, folks, let's continue the conversation that we had. Jesse Jackson Jr. was supposed to be joining us today. And Dr. White, what was your conversation with Jesse?
Because of his father passing, obviously they're planning the services that will be taking place, a number of him laying in state. I just want to mention that, the representative in Washington that would not allow him to lie in state in Washington, he has affected so many lives around the world. He has done so much justice for our Congress people in Washington, the Senate, and beyond. And that honor to be not given to him because of the things that he's done to help all Americans. His foundation, Rainbow Push Coalition, was about all people from all nationalities, cultures, and colors.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, still should be embraced today as we move forward with all of the things that are going on within our country with ICE and the different things that are happening. I think it's really important to
Well, let's
literally keep hope alive.
absolutely.
Seriously.
And Mike, if you can reach out to Mike Simmons' contact person, Milan Patel. I see them online, but they are not unmuting or joining the conversation. They may be having some technical difficulties. So if you just want to give them a call and bring them into the conversation, it's very important, folks. Midterm elections, the
I will do that.
primaries are going on right now. And so early voting is continuing all across the state. If you have not voted, please go and vote. And remember one thing, that the average voter turnout, Sheila, is less than 20-25%. And I am constantly concerned about why are not more people not getting involved with this. What do you think is happening, Reed?
I think that a lot of people don't believe government works for them anymore, both on the right and the left side of the spectrum, political spectrum. And they really think that it's inconsequential as to whether they vote. And that's exactly what our oligarchs and other people who are in power want to have happen. Apathy or feeling that I don't matter. They are somebody, to borrow a phrase, and they need to get out and vote in the primaries too. But I really think that we have a crisis in trusting our government today, and to have government really work for us. And we've got to fight against that because we can make a difference. We've got to collectively do it.
Well, let's see if more people want to join the conversation. Again, folks, it's the number to call in is 773-763-9278. And I am still not seeing Mike Simmons unmuting himself. And so the important thing that is there, folks, is this: educate yourself.
Yes.
There are people out there that will blow you away with all kinds of advertisements, right? And those advertisements, believe it or not, are funded by people who don't have our best interest at heart. I see one person running for the Senate. He's been advertising for the last 3 months now on every channel that you can think of, every YouTube channel that you can think of. And he keeps on flipping his message from, oh, I'm going to fight against Trump. Well, man, you've been a congressman for like, what, 3 terms? Where was that passion when you were a congressman? I'm going to fight against ICE. Oh, yeah? You are the one who went and wrote a letter of support for ICE. And so don't tell me that you are going to change your spots overnight and start fighting against Trump and against ICE. These people need to be taught a lesson, folks, okay? Go and dig into their background. Check out what they have done, what they have promised, and more critically, who is funding them. Congresswoman Murray Newman will be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour to talk about the PACs and the super PACs. What are we allowing these people to do to us? I've been watching Tucker Carlson also with his recent interview that he did with Mike Huckabee, our ambassador to Israel. Did you guys get a chance to watch that, Sheila?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch that, but so much going on in the news every day. You have something new popping off. And I want to go back to what Reed was saying a little bit about people not trusting the government, which is so true, which is why a lot of the voter turnout is so low. People don't trust the government. They don't think that they can make a difference. And so they think, why care? Why go, why vote? And so it's really important to keep this clarion call out to vote. Go vote. Your vote does matter. It can make a difference. And I think just continually to carry the torch about standing up, sticking together. Like Reverend Jackson said, this is something that we need to do as far as working together for social justice advocacy. There are people still struggling in this area,
Okay,
especially
and
under this administration.
I think we finally got Mike Simmons to join us. Good morning, Mike. I can see that he's unmuted, and if you could please switch on your camera, then we can get to see your face also over here. Oops, he's again muted. So, Mike, I think something is happening. Let me see
Yeah.
if I can get him on that
Yeah,
on
for
the
some
line.
reason he can't get in the waiting room for some reason. I don't know what his problem is.
Okay, I got him on another line. I can still waiting for him to unmute. So I don't know why he's unable to unmute. Oh, there he is.
Studio. Okay.
Good morning. We finally get to
There
see
he
you.
is.
Okay.
There he is.
Well, let me bring you into the conversation. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
I'm sorry, something must have been screwed up on some wavelength over there that we couldn't hear you and we couldn't see you.
Yeah, I was waiting to be admitted, but here we are.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. State Senator Mike Simmons joining us. He's running for Congress in the on the 9th district of Illinois.
Yeah, it's ninth district. See,
Okay, and I loved the picture that Milan Patel sent us of you with that fabulous hairdo. How long did it take you to do the hairdo?
you want an honest answer? I started growing my dreads in 2014.
It took a while.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, I started growing. My hair used to be like Obama length. It used to be really short.
Okay.
I started growing it in the winter of 2015, actually, and it is now down to my waist. So folks can recognize me because there's probably no politician in America who has.
Well, let me introduce you to the team that we have over here, Senator. We've got Reed Bible, former county board member, special supervisory agent for ICE, and also a retired immigration attorney, Mike Patino, our political go-to person over here, a segment producer. He reaches out to all of you folks. Dr. Sheila White, 3 times Emmy nominated, and also a 5 times published author on Amazon, and one of the best. And we also have in the waiting room Mr. Tushar Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, who'll be joining us at 8:30 to talk about his legacy and the role of nonviolence in today's society, especially with what Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. King carried on his legacy also. So, Mike, let's come back to you for this morning. Why? Why run for Congress?
You know, our Congress is so ineffective and out of touch. And that's an understatement because at the best, people are out of touch and ineffective. At worst, they're completely corrupt and trading stocks and completely selling out their constituents. I'm sick and tired of it. In the 5 years that I've served in the state Senate, I think that I've really made a reputation as being somebody who is from the community, is on the ground, is all about the people. But I can get things done. I've passed 50 bills into law in 5 years. And, last spring when Jan Schakowsky announced that she was retiring, I heard from a lot of people in the community, folks saying, Mike, you should think about doing this. We need a strong voice right now in Congress for the Ninth District, for the far north side of Chicago and north and northwest suburbs. And my family and I thought it through. And I'm running for Congress because we need somebody who is going to shake up the system, who is not going to just be doing this for a promotion or just to be a member of a club, but is going to go there to get things done, to stand up to Trump, to grab the bullhorns of fascism before it's too late, and to get back to addressing the affordability crisis and bringing down the cost of healthcare and getting ICE off our street and protecting our democracy. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Mike, especially in the ninth district, when we were having congressional forums last month, we did miss you. We had a lot of discussion. There's so many candidates that are running in the ninth district, including a carpetbagger who came over just to run in the ninth district. And I'm pretty sure that after the election, that person is going to go back to where they came from. What are your roots in the ninth district?
Yeah, my roots are deep in the Ninth District. This is the proudest part of my candidacy. I'm a product of the Ninth District because not just because I was born and raised here, it's how I grew up. I grew up in a newly built three-flat public housing building that was constructed in the early 1980s, with my family being the very first family to move into the building. The buildings were built in the early 1980s as a result of a landmark 1976 Supreme Court decision that desegregated public housing, the Gautreaux decision. And
Mhm.
so my family was one of hundreds that were able to move into integrated neighborhoods on the north and northwest side. Previously not integrated, but mine was the first of three Black families to move into Lincoln Square. That's a neighborhood that's in the Ninth District. That's a story that starts in the Ninth District. And my parents, my dad had just come to America from Ethiopia as an asylum seeker. Um, my mother had me when she was 18. She was African American. She had wanted to be a lawyer, and she put off all of that to raise me and my sister. And so I'm a product of a multicultural household, as a result of a Supreme Court decision. And, I'm also openly gay. And growing up, I was bullied in our local schools. And my mother really sacrificed a lot to
Okay.
me a path to get to where I'm at now. So that's just one part of my roots. The tentacles run deeper than that, but that's, I think, the most poignant foundation for who I am as a person and how I
So
show.
one of the things that I'm noticing, Mike, more and more, our legacy media, the so-called purveyors of truth in our community, seem to write you off, right? They are focused on the top three candidates as far as polls are concerned. I don't know where those polls are coming from, but the rest of the people that are running for office are being totally ignored by the legacy media as if you have no chance at all. How do you counter that?
Yeah, I first of all, that it's erasure. It's erasure, and it's problematic. It's really a big problem. I've pointed this out to some of our local journalists. And what I've said is that let's look at the facts. Number one, I'm a Black and gay state senator who represents 250,000 people on the far north side of Chicago, sitting in the Ninth District. I've served in office for 5 years. I've passed bills to create the new child tax credit in Illinois, legislation to create medical debt relief initiative last year, which as of this week has cleared medical debt for 520,000 people in the state. $1.1 billion of medical debt gone as a result of a bill I brought forward. And so as a candidate for Congress, I have built an outstanding and well-organized campaign that has support endorsements from all three counties in the Ninth District. I was the first candidate in this race to pick up endorsements out of McHenry County, Lake County and Cook County and Chicago. I've raised nearly $500,000 as a first-time national candidate. And
Awesome.
yes, and we have a compelling message. And so I think that that is the type of campaign that can pull off a win and pull off an upset here and make history. And I would become only the third Black and gay person to ever serve in the U.S. Congress and the first Ethiopian American to ever take the oath of office in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Awesome. Dr. White and Reed and Mike, if you have any questions for Mike Simmons, we'll get about another couple of minutes. We actually ran into his time because he couldn't unmute and come on the radio with us over here today. So we have to be cognizant of time. Mike, if you want to stay on and ask any questions, be part of the conversation with Mr. Gandhi, feel free to stay on. But you guys got any questions for Mike before we let him
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, I just have one question. With the low voter turnout that we talked about earlier, Mike, how will you help younger people and individuals come out to vote? What message would you give them? I know in the last few years you mentioned that 50 bills were signed into law, but what would you do to help encourage people for the voter turnout?
Mhm. You know, that's something we're actively working on right now. We were actually up last night working on this. So we've got, first of all, a lot of our core volunteers are young adults, college students. One of my strongest volunteers is 17.
Mm.
Young Ethiopian from Uptown who is inspired to see me running for Congress and he wants to be a part of that history. We're giving them ownership of the campaign. That's the short answer. I'm a very non-hierarchical leader. I think that you win something like this by empowering people in the community, and you show them the path. And so our young people are organizing other young people. They're bringing young people out as volunteers. They're doing young folks are doing town halls where they're bringing me in to meet more young voters in the ninth district. And then our campaign is making sure they're registered to vote and they make a plan to vote. And they're going to be with us for Get Out the Vote and on election day. They're going to be a core part of our Get Out the Vote operation. And I'm
Okay,
excited.
folks, that's Mike Simmons is running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District. I think Mike Patino has a question for you, Mike.
Good morning. I'm glad we finally got you on the show. I'm a former union officer with the Transport Workers Union, and I just wondered how do you plan on working with the unions in this state, and how do you want to empower and get unions back into the fold again?
Mhm. Well, first of all, so much thank you for the work that you've done. Public transit is a really big part of my platform. I really want your listeners to know that I'm the only candidate in this race who can say that they fought effectively to pass a $1.5 billion bill just 2 months ago that invests in public transit across Northern Illinois. So Metra, Pace, across suburban Ninth District. And of course, the CTA are going to get better with expanded services because of work that I help lead. And I want to be a champion for public transit in Congress. We don't have members of Congress that use public transit. As a state senator, I use public transit every day. I get back and forth to the state capitol in Springfield on Amtrak, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of our union workers who operate our transit systems every day. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Amalgamated Transit Union 241, the Amalgamated Transit Union 308, representing our bus and our train operators. I'm proud to have the endorsements of the Cook County College Teachers Union, as well as the Chicago firefighters and several other unions. Listen, unions are under attack in this country. Collective bargaining has, faced unprecedented attacks from right-wing ideologues. I would help to pass the PRO Act to protect the right of all workers to unionize. I'm proud to be supporting legislation in the Illinois Senate right now that would give gig workers the right to unionize. I think that it's really important that we protect that right. And listen, my generation is going to have to fight extra hard to defend unions and collective bargaining, which generations before us paid a dear price so that folks can have the right to negotiate for wages, for benefits, for time off, and for workplace safety. As a working class candidate, I take those very seriously. And you can count on me in Congress to be a leader on this. Showing up on the picket line without being asked the way I'm known to do in the state Senate, most recently standing with our flight attendants. We're trying to get a fair contract with United Airlines, and standing with our baristas from Starbucks who are trying to get a fair contract when the CEO of Starbucks makes 7,000 times what your average barista is making.
Mhm.
Those are the fights that will lead.
Okay, Mike, we got about 30 seconds to let you go. And thank you so much for joining us early on a Sunday morning. How do people get to know more about you? Where can we find more information about you?
Yeah, go to mikesimmons.org, MIKESIMMONS.org. Read up on my platform, read up on my life story, make a donation of the top four candidates, and I'm one of those four candidates. The other candidates have a lot more money. One of my opponents, Laura Fine, is basically taking money from AIPAC and people that give to Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. And I've got other top candidates they have millions of dollars coming in for them. Like I said, I've raised nearly $500,000 from small business owners in the 9th district, from people that live in this district. And that's the kind of congressperson I want to be in. So I need your help. Go to mikesimmons.org, hit donate, and then sign up to volunteer with us because we need you out there on doors and phone banking with us so that we can win this primary and make history.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us, folks. That's Mike Simmons running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, state senator currently. Great guy overall. Do check him out. And now it's time for us to introduce you to our featured guest today, which is going to be Tushar Gandhi. Good morning, Tushar. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And it is such a pleasure to be able to see you. Let me introduce you to my team. We got Reed Bible, who joins us from Henderson, Nevada. We got Dr. Sheila White and Mike Patino on the team today.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 9 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Congresswoman Murray Newman, and Attorney Maria Mozaffar will be joining us at 9:30 to talk about a couple of things that is happening in our world over here. But to come back, folks, let me introduce you to Tushar Gandhi. He's the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, and he is himself a wonderful writer. His book, Let's Kill Gandhi, is a chronicle of the last days of Gandhi, the conspiracy, the murder, the investigation, the trials, and the Kapoor Commission and all of that. But today, we want to talk to him about a couple of very important topics. And I want to start off by having Mr. Gandhi introduce himself. Good morning again.
Good morning. I am Tushar Gandhi. I come from India. I'm here to commemorate my parents, actually, who initially started commemorating the period between the death anniversaries of my great-grandfather and Dr. Martin Luther King, and commemorating the 64-day period in between as the season for nonviolence. And after they've both passed, I have taken over the responsibility of reviving that practice. So this year I came and we had that program in Chicago last week.
Okay.
So that's what brings me here.
Okay, wonderful. So let's dive right into it. Dr. King drew deeply from your great-grandfather's philosophy, especially in America. Now we are celebrating Black History Month. When you look at today's world in India and in America, do you think we are honoring that shared legacy of nonviolence?
Unfortunately, officially, neither of the country any longer cherishes or practices nonviolent practices, but in the common people, in their need to lead secure lives, I see a lot of nonviolence. We saw people fighting for their democratic rights back in my country, in the farmers' agitation, and before that, in the agitation against the citizenship agitation, the CAA and the NRC, which were seen as dangers to the democratic rights of citizens. And we have seen that in the protests against ICE in the US, and also the No Kings movement, and before that, the Black Lives movement. And so in times of need, humanity has always turned towards nonviolence to protect their rights. If you look at the administrations and the governments, they veer towards violence as their creed. You see how the threats are issued, you see how bullying is done and things. But when it comes to common people, I still feel that the faith in nonviolence is intact and, as a matter of fact, growing.
So both Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. believed that democracy requires moral courage.
Absolutely.
In India today, especially with the Narendra Modi government and the RSS all over the country, how do you assess the health of secular democracy in India?
Unfortunately, secular democracy, both the secular ideal and the democratic principle, are on the retreat in India. Majoritarianism and a kind of intolerant, monoethical system is being foisted on the Indian people. And people like me who cherish the secular and democratic, constitutional democratic principle are on the back foot in India. But I see that all over the world, democracies seem to be retreating. Democracies seem to be weakening. And also it is this human trend that I'm seeing where the charm of the strong leader seems to be overpowering the basic principle of democracy, where society and the citizenry are the powerful and the leaders are those who serve those ideals, and the constitution is the most powerful element in a democracy. Today we see that we all get swayed by the supposed charm of very strong leadership, and that
we
that
are facing
fascination.
that. Yeah, we are facing that over here in our country also. But
Yes,
folks, we are talking with Tushar Gandhi, the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. He is visiting from India, and right now, I think you're in. Where are you now? You're in Boston now, or where are you?
I'm in Rochester, New York at the
You're in
moment.
Rochester, New York. Okay, wonderful. So, coming back to our conversation, Gandhi envisioned pluralism rooted in spiritual humility. Dr. King spoke of the beloved community. Are those visions compatible with majoritarian politics?
Not at all. Not at all. Because in the basis of that ideology, you see the element of respecting the minorities, those who we dismiss as having no influence on a democracy or the mechanism of democracy. And so I believe that today, when we see kind of endorsement of the fact that in a democracy the majority is the one that is influential and that has to be listened to. If you look at the ideal democracy defined by my great grandfather Mohandas Gandhi, and I make a distinction over here. I don't refer to my great grandfather as the Mahatma, because you put him on a pedestal and then you convince yourself that we cannot emulate him. And so I like to keep him as a mere mortal. And so I refer to him as by his Christian name. He said that the weakest voice in the democracy must be the most powerful, and their will and their rights must be protected. Today, unfortunately, we have sort of forgotten it, and everywhere we see that we believe that majoritarian rule is the correct way to go. Dr. King also fought for the rights of the weakest of the weak. He said those who do not have a voice need our assistance and our support, and their voices need to be amplified. And that is the spirit of a pluralistic, inclusive democracy, where we live and practice compassion. We are compassionate by nature, and we make it our duty to assist those who cannot assist themselves. Today, Also, if you look at it, democracy, in the previous interview that I was listening to, that what I was realizing was that all over democracy is becoming hostage to money power. The
Absolutely. And
process of democracy is being hijacked by money and wealth, and it's going out of the reach of common people. Now, how can that ever be allowed?
so let me ask you this. Martin Luther King Jr. over here in our country confronted segregation. Gandhi confronted colonial rule. What is the defining injustice of of our time, in your view?
I think the defining injustice of our time is majoritarianism. I keep repeating this term majoritarianism because I see it as the greatest danger posed to the true spirit of democracy, like the supremacist ideas of colonial times and of post colonial racist regimes. We see that today, although on the face of it they claim to be democratically elected governments and representatives, you see that they follow the trends of majority appeasement. And that is one of the greatest dangers. And I think that ideal itself is born out of the fascist belief in superiority of race, and that afflicts my country back in India, as well as I see more and more of it in the US too.
Well, let's do a quick lightning round, and I would love to carry on this conversation for at least an hour, but unfortunately on radio we don't have that luxury, and then we do have Dr. White itching to ask you a question. So one Gandhian principle the world needs right now.
Compassion.
One teaching of Dr. King that feels urgent today.
Embracing everybody. Making everybody feel wanted, making everybody feel equal. Equality, compassion, and dignity. I think those three words sum up the legacy of the two iconic leaders.
Okay, one action an ordinary citizen like me can take this week.
Believe in the other person's right to protest. Believe in the other person's right to be different.
Okay, I got one more question for you. Okay, and then we'll go to the panel over here. If Gandhi and Dr. King were sitting together today, what would they say to leaders in India and America?
I think they would remind them of the fact that they are servants, not leaders. They should not forget that. But your question brings to my mind a very telling cartoon, a caricature that I came across once, and it's also, if people search for it on the net, they will find it. It's Gandhi and Dr. King meeting in the clouds, and Gandhi tells Dr. King that they still believe that they killed our idea. I think that is a very great reminder of ideas can never be killed. Human beings can.
You are so absolutely right. And Dr. White, you have any question for Mr. Gandhi over here?
Yes, thank you so much for being here. What is the most profound and non-political lesson you learned directly from this great historic leader?
Unfortunately, I was born much after he was removed from our midst. But I was fortunate that I grew up with my grandmother and my father, who spent a lot of time with my great grandparents. And so my childhood was filled of their stories. And I think the one thing that I carry, or the lesson that I carry with me in my life, is being responsible, taking responsibility for things. Many a times, we all identify what is wrong, but we wait for somebody else to rectify it. We don't realize that we also have to be responsible. And so for me, taking responsibility is the most the greatest takeaway that I have learned from my great grandfather's legacy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Reed, you got any comments, any questions for Mr. Gandhi?
Yes, I do, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for being here. It's a privilege to be able to speak with you. My question to you would be, can you explain why your great grandfather and others feel that the use of nonviolence as a tactic is superior to any other in the struggle for social justice? And was there ever a circumstance in which your great grandfather that you might know of, would he condone the use of violence?
Well, I think why he endorsed nonviolence was his belief that we must empower the weakest of the weak. And he felt that even the weakest could have the moral courage to practice nonviolence. And because he believed that nonviolence was a spiritual force, and spirituality is ingrained into every human being, or I would say life form. And so he believed in the power and the ease of use of nonviolence. But to go to the second question that you asked, in writing, he has written, my great grandfather, that if ever he was to endorse a war, it would be a war against the Nazis to stop them from what they were doing in Europe during the Second World War. So he has gone on record in writing of endorsing violence in certain circumstances, but he qualifies that by saying that that would be the last course of action. It would never be the first course of action as we see today, where aggression and attacks are threatened as the first line of communication.
Well, especially in our president over here,
Absolutely.
he is
Absolutely.
going nuts. Okay.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, we live in a country where we are allowed to say that without having them come down in a helicopter on top of our studio and say, and picking us up over
don't
here.
wish that.
Okay.
That can happen too.
But but still, we are very fortunate to live in a country where we have the freedom to speak, and we are fighting against enormous powers to keep those freedoms over here, Tushar. Mike, you got any questions for Mr. Gandhi before we let him go?
Yes, I do. Mr. Gunn, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's really nice. It's a privilege to have you here. So I was wondering, you mentioned earlier about the strong man, how people are gravitating to the strong man. How can we push back on that? How can we make servant leadership something to be attracted to? I find that's very difficult, and everybody, as you stated, they gravitate to that strong man.
I think it is the fascination for Rambo and Terminator that physical strength or aggressiveness is considered to be strength, whereas real strength is the strength of character and morality. This difference between strength physical and strength spiritual needs to be understood by people. And I think that is what we must explain to people, that you don't need to be a boaster, you don't need to be a bully to be effective. Silently one can achieve much more, and if you persevere. And this craze for instant justice, instant change, instant effect is also contributing to that charm of the strong, aggressive, male macho character kind of thing.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, folks. This is Tushar Gandhi, and like he likes to say, he is the great grandson of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, not the Mahatma Gandhi, because if we put him up on a pedestal, we are not going to be following what he achieved as a human being. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'd like to go back to Read Bible. And Read, you wanted to say something today about what is happening in our country.
Well, I had a couple of things I want to say, but time constraints are going to confine me to just doing one thing. And that is, I want to continue in the vein of Dr. White and do a tribute to the late Reverend Jesse Jackson. I am somebody. That's the affirmation of the value of each and every human life. That is the quintessential legacy of the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr., who attained iconic status as an intrepid and tireless civil and human rights activist working for racial equality, economic justice, and voting rights. Brother Jackson made his peaceful transition from this life earlier this week at the age of 84 after several decades of service to mankind. And he started his work in the 1960s at a protege of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1965's effort for voting rights in that campaign. And then Reverend Jackson headed the SCLSC's Operation Breadbasket, pushing for greater economic opportunities for African Americans. Jackson also founded the Chicago-based People United to Save Humanity, or Operation Push, in 1971. This organization fought drugs, worked against teenage pregnancy and violence in the Black community. He also worked for greater African American involvement in the political process. In both 1984 and in 1988, Jackson made strong bids for the Democratic presidential nomination, and his Rainbow Coalition won 9 state primaries in 1988, which garnered him 7 million votes out of the 23 million that were cast in those primaries. Jackson combined both these organizations, Rainbow and Push, in 1997 for the purpose of monitoring Wall Street and wealthy corporations' hiring, promotion, and investment practices. And during the 1980s, Jackson began to play a prominent role in the world scene, negotiating the release of prisoners and hostages in the Middle East and in Cuba. In May of 1999, he arranged even for the release of 3 U.S. soldiers held as prisoners in Yugoslavia. He also addressed the Million Man March in D.C., the Million Man March on Washington, I should say, in D.C. in 1995, advocating for taking personal responsibility and economic empowerment. Reverend Jackson said the following in an address at the Democratic National Convention on July 17 of 1984. He said, I quote, "I was born in a slum, but the slum was not born in me, and it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high, stick your chest out, you can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Suffering breeds character, character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint." End of his quote. So in other words, folks, keep hope alive. Jesse Jackson, you moved this nation in the direction of progress toward a more perfect union. You earned your rest, and we are determined to continue in that direction.
Well, Reed, thank you so much for reminding us of what Jesse Jackson Jr. Meant to our country. There are not too many not too many people who have had the impact that Jesse Jackson had on our country. And as we continue to mourn his passing, let us not forget that there are people in leadership positions in our country who have refused a request from his family to let him repose at the state capitol in Washington. Okay. Now that shows you how petty people can be.
Yeah, this is not the time for partisanship. The man, whether you agree with his politics or not, was an American hero. He did make a big difference over the span of 7 decades in this country towards human rights and the realization of civil rights, from voting to housing matters to just feeding people, getting them housing. That, no matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, that's got to be something that is appreciated by everyone across the whole political spectrum. And this is not a time to engage in some pettiness and not allow him to lie in state in the rotunda of the Capitol.
Oh boy. Okay. So it's coming up on 9 o'clock. We'll be going in for a station break at 9 o'clock. Meanwhile, we will continue the conversation on Facebook over here with you. And if you have any questions, any comments that you want to share with us, feel free to call in. The number to call in is 773-9278. And at about 9:15, Congresswoman Marie Newman will be joining us, and that will continue the conversation with Congresswoman Marie Newman on the radio over here. Are you guys able to hear me?
Where are you from? Can I see your license? And they said it was a seatbelt safe. And after that, they proceeded to trail her all the way to her home, trailing her, not getting her, being in front of her, leading her to her home. And she clearly realized that that stop was not about a seatbelt check or a safety check. They were really trying to find out where she was from, where she was going, and even after having her driver's license, where now showing that.
Okay, Sheila, can you hear me?
It's just so much. Just to a point where they're just harassing anyone on the streets because they're looking at numbers, how many people they've been in. And it's really becoming not a safe place anymore. So I do agree with Mohammed said we have to vote. We have to encourage people to come out and vote this election. Our democracy is at stake. And I do appreciate the fact that our great speaker just a little while ago, our guest, said that ideas don't die. Even though the body is gone from this earth, those ideas don't die. And even with Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi, they're gone now, but their ideas are still here. And they're remnant in people, and people are still trying to push for peace and protest for peace. And so I think it's so important that we continue to keep on keeping on and, following the path of Mahatma Gandhi, for nonviolence, and Martin Luther King and others like Jesse Jackson Sr., still trying to help individuals not feel marginalized in this country. So we have work to do. We have work to do. You agree, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just, I never had the opportunity to see him up close, but I've met his.
You've been working hard all day and didn't have time to catch up on the news during work. It's gone 20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and online WCPT20.com, where facts matter.
Things that you wanted to bring up as well about what's going on right now within our country. Yeah.
First of all, I think you made a good point, and so did Mr. Gandhi, that this is why violence does not, because you can't kill an idea. You cannot.
Yes.
You can kill a human being, but you cannot kill an idea. That's why nonviolence is so much more effective. But Dr. White, I did want to talk about the just tariff decision that came up this week. Last November, I spoke about the case before the Supreme Court known as Learning Resources versus Trump, which was the case that required the court to rule on the question of whether a president can unilaterally impose tariffs. And at that time, I predicted that it would rule that no president has such authority. No, we had a 6-3 decision this week. The High Court did rule that the president has no inherent, unbounded power to impose global tariffs during peacetime. However, I want to point out that my prediction did not require any in-depth analysis of the Constitution on my part, nor did I require any courageous adherence to theories for interpreting the Constitution that's called original. Trumps don't deserve. Conservatives insist that the text of the Constitution should be interpreted according to the original intent or meaning of that provision when it was adopted. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution clearly states
that Congress can authorize a tax or tariff. Or as James Madison phrased it, I like how he did it in Federalist Papers, he said, only Congress can have access to the pockets of the So, not a president, not a court, Congress can access your pockets. This was, in reality, obvious and only outcome possible. You read black letter words, the Constitution, they're not subject to nuance. So, even in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, Congress is not allowed to impose taxes on exports. So this is how they got into the weeds on this. Congress can delegate some of its powers with regard to regulation of international trade, and it did that with the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which was the subject of this case. And the president he's required to declare an emergency that's posed by foreign threats. However, Congress can still rescind that declaration. And what the court found was that IEPA did not delegate the congressional power of taxation to the president, or could it. Congress never delegated such a highly consequential power with ambiguous language, because the fundamental principle of separation of powers is a fundamental principle in our Constitution. You just don't
to comprehend that simple fact. So I'm seeing that Congresswoman Newman is here and Mohammed is back. We've been punting here while you guys were gone.
Well, my computer decided to go ahead and install an update right in the middle of the show.
Well, it is now
Nice.
called the Patino White Bible Show. Just in case you didn't know. Lightning has struck.
Oh boy.
We'll turn it back over to you, Mohammed.
Well, thank you guys so much for carrying on. That's teamwork, folks, and I'd like to welcome Congresswoman Marie Newman to the show. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning. Well, your cold does not sound better, sir. I want to be clear.
I've got a bunch of these things lined up over here to carry me through the show, but I'm telling you, it's the Trump 2.0 virus, Marie.
Yeah, this is like 2 or 3 weeks. You're seeing a doctor, correct? I'm just being, a nag.
I'm seeing a doctor, but unfortunately, most doctors today, they are the product of the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, they're financed by the education is financed by the pharmaceutical industry. They do not have an idea about holistic medicine.
Oh.
And all they do is they shoot you with some kind of a product, and then they say, come back and see me in a week. If that doesn't work, I'm going to change and give you something else, some other pill. So I'm sorry, I got 8 doctors in the family. I don't trust any one of them. Okay.
I'm sure they feel good about that.
Well,
I mean, it is true that, sometimes it feels like the trial and error. I will tell you, particularly in mental health, and that'll be a whole subject of mine in the coming weeks, but particularly with mental health care, that psychiatrists don't ask enough questions. They don't look at the holistic problem across family, person, environment, situation, diet, exercise, all the things, right? And
Marie, how would you feel going to a mechanic who says he's practicing putting brakes on your car?
I know. Right. But I will tell you, science is not perfect, right? And so let me, it'll sound like I'm both sidesing this thing, but it's true. And it's our dilemma. Our real problem is we don't have general contractor types of internists anymore. So they don't look at your whole being and then offer something to a specialist so that they can be quicker and get to the root of the problem faster. And
absolutely.
That's my main gripe.
You did miss a very good conversation with Tushar Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson.
I'll have to watch it back later today.
We will definitely post it back on our website. But to continue the conversation, what's on your mind today?
Well, I know Reed was talking about tariffs, and I know this, and I think you probably explored all of it, but I did want to make a few points about our friends in the White House and how this all went down and why this is such good news for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of it. So I thought I'd round it up again. And so, my segment is called Ignore at Your Risk. Welcome, everybody. But the reason I call it Ignore at Your Risk, because there's just little pieces in there that we have good news that not everybody is quite understanding. So, first and foremost, let's just go back to what the decision was that was made on Friday, or Thursday rather. The court ruled that the president exceeded his authority under the 1977 law. So this was originally intended for unusual and extraordinary circumstances, right? And usually foreign threats. It's not a tool for broad economic policy or raising revenue, right? And it was never intended that way, nor does it work that way, to Reed's point when I came on, how he was describing simply a sales tax on America, right? The grounding that they had, and Chief Justice was 100% right, and this is well seated in the Constitution, is that rights for the majority emphasize that the power to impose taxes and tariffs belongs to the Congress and only the Congress, not the executive branch, right? So easy things to understand. The 6-3 decision was a combination of the court's liberal wing and the conservative wing coming together. So that's good news, insight number one, right? Both sides came together and realized, wow, we have to follow the Constitution. So everybody be buoyed by that little piece of good news. And then what exactly was struck down? What is the court saying that he needs to stop doing? So the ruling invalidated many, but not all, of the reciprocal tariffs, right? That on Liberation Day, he did this blanket across, 100 countries or so. And those have been really trimmed back dramatically. So what's the immediate upshot of that? And we knew that. So what do tantruming children do when you tell them to calm down and you can only have a tiny tantrum in the middle of the of Mariano's, right? What do they say? They keep going, right? And they're like, no, I want to get the rest of my tantrum out. So that's in fact what Trump did, is that he then imposed new tariff actions. So just literally hours later, he came back and said he would bypass the ruling and by signing a new 10% global tariff, which is insane, which he later said, no, I'm so mad and I would like it to be 15 now.
Yep.
And he's now relying on this kind of esoteric Trade Act of 1974, which allows for temporary 150-day tariffs. So we'll see what happens there. And again, it's executive order, so there's ways around that. People don't have to follow that. Now, refunds. This is a really big deal. And this is another good news, bad news situation, but it's mostly good news. So if he does do the refunds, it'll be to businesses, which is very upsetting because we're the ones who actually paid for it. Is that consumers, it was a tax on consumers. We paid for the 6 to 20% increase in all of the goods that we've been purchasing over the last year. But if it goes anywhere, it'll go back to the companies and the businesses, right? But the good news in here is that he was embarrassed in front of everyone. He will think twice about it again. And now the businesses are kind of back on the side of consumers, meaning that this was embarrassing for everybody. It was embarrassing for the country. It was embarrassing for business. It was embarrassing for consumers and hurt consumers a lot. So it created some consolidation on the people of America. Now, I still believe we're top versus bottom in a lot of ways, but this is making businesses really think through their policies too. So I think there's good news in there. So what is the political fallout? It's a lot, right? This is the super good news. I don't like to see anyone fail, but this is good news because this just shows that his power is limited, right? So President Trump criticized the ruling, called it a disgrace and unpatriotic. He had all kinds of choice words. But conversely, some of the Republicans, Democrats suggested the new tariff, like the old ones, would face congressional challenges. So here he is at odds again, and it's going to take time for that to happen. So now where we're at, I think, is overall great news, is that we can see that this Supreme Court will defy him. We can see that they'll follow the Constitution, albeit still very conservatively. And that we also see that it helps the rest of the world come together, meaning the rest of the foreign relations world. But then in the US, we're seeing, wow, it was bad for businesses. It was bad for consumers. What does this guy hope to accomplish? So what happens with all that money? So that money is out there. And Scott Bessent, made a ridiculous comment on a talk show. He said, yeah, no consumers are ever going to see that money, but I'm sure some companies will. And just on its face, the fact that he doesn't understand how that sounds, it better encapsulates this bottom versus the top journey that we're having right now. So I think it just solidifies independents and Democrats together for the 2026 elections and then the 28. So largely good news, right? My second topic today is a whopper, right? Because we've got this infuriates me. So let me start there. Is that super PACs infuriate me. Bully PACs like APAC, United Democracy Project, Electing Chicago Women, Illinois Future, all of these PACs super PACs that are funded by bully PACs like APAC and their affiliates, they're spending, just as a big number out there, overall in Illinois, they're spending $10 million. And I want to frame that for everybody. I've talked to a lot of oncologist researchers that $10 million could mean that over a 5-year period that we have a curative treatment for one cancer. There's 180 cancers. We could have one curative treatment put together. So just think and the $2 billion we spend on presidential campaigns, think of how many cancers we could cure from that. So I just want to frame that. $10 million on Chicago, APAC is spending to character assassinate and to support their candidates. So, but we have two other kind of nasty characters coming in. Crypto, which is their name is Fair Shake. Their PAC name is Fair Shake in the Chicago area. They're spending $2 million to support their candidates because their goal with APAC, their goal is to allow for unconditional support of Israel. Unconditional, no matter what. They could murder everybody today and we'd be, supporting them. Crypto's unconditional requirements are that you support crypto and don't regulate them. So they're spending $2 million to assure that new members of Congress get in that they like, just like APAC, the ones that they like. And then there's another character, AI, it's called the Think Big PAC, and they're spending $1.2 million overall in the Chicago area. A little bit downstate too. So let's talk about how that impacts the Senate race. So right now there's an anti-Raja PAC out there that's a consortium group that's reportedly spending up to $500K against him because of his relationship with MAGA donors. So that's their reason for being. The pro-Juliana PAC, there's a couple of them. She has a super PAC called Level Up that she built knowing that she would go in, and that has a lot of APAC donors and corporate donors. So let's break that down a little bit. Juliana Shana, she's repeatedly vowed, oh gosh, I'll never accept a single dime of corporate PAC money, and yet she has. So the Sun-Time reports very clearly she has a history of accepting corporate PAC and direct corporate contributions in her campaign funds, going back all the way to 2016. So she has received checks from Marquee Energy Corporate PAC for her Senate campaign while taking $21,000 from the same family. So she's definitely taking corporate money, even though she has said that she's not. And in her super PAC, there's another $46,000 from various corporations. And then in the PAC that Juliana was, so they made it for her, which is called the Illinois Future PAC. It's Governor Pritzker put $5 million into it. And then there's up to another $5 million from APAC donors that will be giving to her. And then obviously she's comfortable with all this because she refuses to take the pledge to never take APAC or affiliate. So all of those PACs that we talked about earlier, she's happy to take that money. And when I say take it, she's not coordinating, she's following the law. She's not coordinating with them, but those super PACs act on their own and either go after her opponents or support her. So it is as if she is taking the money, but she's not taking it directly. It goes through the corporate PAC. So the Senate race has somewhere between 10 to 12 million overall circulating around APAC and corporate money that in fact is impacting that race primarily to support Juliana, but also Raja. Okay. Robin Kelly has made the 2-PAC. She will not take any corporate money. And Robin has also committed to never taking any APAC or APAC affiliated money. So that's the Senate race, just reeking of APAC money. Illinois 9, wowza. Yeah, same thing going on. So Laura Fine is receiving about $2 million in ads from APAC affiliates. Looks like about half of that money, so about $1 million, is to support her in a positive way, and then to go after Dan Biss and a few other people in the race. For Biss is receiving an often affiliate of APAC, which is 314 Science Action. So sounds like it's about science. It's actually APAC money that gets funneled into a smaller PAC called 314 Science. And that's just to support him. There's no negative support going on there, but it is to support him, and it's APAC money. So Illinois 8, wow, it's a whopper there too. So Melissa Bean, who has been designated before and for all time, is she was in Congress back in 2008. They called her Wall Street's favorite Democrat, right? Because she took so much corporate PAC money. Now, one of the APAC sub-PACs, their name is Electing Chicago Women. So folks, when you see that on the bottom of the ad in Illinois 8, Electing Chicago Women is simply APAC. And also this AI super PAC that's called Think Big, they're spending collectively right around $1.8 billion on Melissa Bean. So she's both a corporate AI supported, but APAC supported candidate. So maybe you look at all the other candidates in that race. In Illinois 7, APAC in this race, new fun name, it's called United Democracy Project in the Illinois 7 race. And that's putting positives out on Melissa Conyers-Ervin. And then also the crypto PAC, known as Fair Shake, is spending about $1 million against the front runner. So right now, in that race in Illinois 7, the leader is by just a point or two is Melissa. Then it is LaShawn Ford, and coming in third is Keena Collins, just literally 1% behind LaShawn. So it's a very tight race. And Melissa's agreements, they're again not coordinating, but she's receiving money from APAC and United Democracy Project, but also the crypto PAC Fair Shake. So the crypto guys are everywhere. And then finally, in Illinois 2, and this is an interesting one because there was a real consequence for this candidate's actions. So APAC and the sub-PAC called Affordable Chicago Now is spending $868,000 for Donna Miller, who's running in Illinois 2. That angered Jan Schakowsky, our current representative in Illinois, that is actually supporting a few candidates throughout the Chicago area. Jan said, "I'm going to rescind my endorsement because you're taking that APAC money," which we should all applaud because APAC is really interfering. The crypto dudes, those Fair Shake dudes, are spending $1 million negatively against Robert Peters, who is kind of an AOC candidate, populist left. And then the Think Big PAC, that AI super PAC, is spending over $500,000 to support Jesse Jackson Jr., which, last looking at the polls, he's still leading, but not by a lot. So these totals, I'm just going to share the totals again. So in the race for U.S. Senate, there's something like 10 million running around that race that is from APAC related, and then some other anti-Raja PACs. And then throughout the Chicago area, the crypto dudes, known as Fair Shake, are spending 2 million. And then the AI PAC, which is known as Think Big, is 1.2 million. So what does that tell us? Folks, look at those ads. And when you see names like Electing Chicago Women, Affordable Chicago Now, Illinois Future, United Democracy Project, know that they are bully PACs, and the candidates they are supporting should not be supported. So if they're going positive for Laura Fine, maybe look at her stances, because you're probably not going to agree with all of them. Similarly in Illinois 8. So do your research, know these PACs. They operate in a very dark way. And understand all that as you make your decisions moving forward. But that is where we're at right now. Next week, we're going to look at all the polls surrounding all these races because they're all starting to tighten. And we'll also have an independent candidate in Illinois 4. So Illinois 4 right now is represented by Chuy Garcia. And during the primaries, some, kind of standard Chicago behavior. His chief of staff was, they circulated petitions for her. Yeah, Patty Garcia, no relation. They're both have the same last name. She was effectively anointed because what happened was Chewy decided to step down the last day of petitions, so nobody couldn't get in and get their petitions in. So Patty was anointed as the current nominee for the Democratic nomination. Now, that didn't stop a couple of other candidates. So Byron Cicho Lopez, the 25th Ward Alderman, decided he would again. He's been in Chicago politics for 10 years, and he is going to run as an independent. So he's going to come and visit and talk about that race. I think that will be an interesting one. So those are all the things, folks. If you want to learn more about super PACs and dark money and all the things and bully PACs, I'm going to talk about it again this week in my Substack. But stay tuned for more New Guard candidates. Byron's coming on next week. And as always, just shout at me on my Substack with questions.
Sounds good, Marie. Thank you so much. Folks, that has been a civics lessons, if ever there was one. And we're going to post this on our Facebook and our YouTube and on our website over there at tlsradio.com. So you could go back and refresh yourself and learn as to who are we selling our country to. It comes down to that, Marie. I mean, it's so sad that we claim to be a representative democracy, which we are not.
Not right now. Yeah, it's not working.
At this point, it is not working, folks. Midterm elections are coming up, March 17th. Early voting is going on now. Make sure that you pay attention to the primary elections because this leads to the election in November.
Yeah.
So whoever that we are electing now to represent us to go against the Republicans in November are going to be the face of the party, the face of the country. And we got to make sure that we elect the right people to begin with. Learn. Make sure that you are paying attention to what Marie has been saying.
Yeah.
All these super PACs and bully PACs. It is time we got out of this mess. Okay.
Yeah. And as Eb said, I know I'm sort of it's my hobby horse, but there's legislation. There's legislation out there right now we could all sign on to. And by the way, there's probably 50 Republicans that would sign on to because they're concerned about corporate financing of our Congress. So it is not just that, oh gosh, this is a Democrat versus Republican. So many Democrats are corporatized. And there's, folks, I'm just going to give you a dire warning. If you let these corporate Democrats win in these races, not only will they not represent your district correctly in the way you want them to, they are going to be preoccupied with performing for their overlords. And that takes hours every day. I was there. I know that. I saw it every day. I saw it in the Capitol. I saw it in restaurants. I saw it everywhere. They spend literally more than half their day performing for their corporate overlords and for APEC. And when you're spending all that time, you don't get a lot done. So
absolutely. And thank you, Marie, again. Thank you so much for teaching us all of these things. And we got Maria Muzaffar joining us. Maria, good morning. It's 9:31. Sorry, we ran 1 minute over for your segment. And what's happening in the echo chamber now, Maria? What do you want to break open for us?
Well, first of all, good morning, and I'm happy to give my time up for Marie and and her list. Marie, I know that the list is on Substack. Is there a list on the Facebook page or for the show's Facebook page where you can share that list as well, or somewhere on Instagram?
Let me, you know what I'll do is I'll send it to Mohammed and he can share it with our Facebook page. That's a great idea. I will.
Absolutely.
On it.
Absolutely. I think that is a wonderful idea, Maria.
And I wanted to kind of expand on this dark money thing because I don't think many people understand what actually people mean when they say dark money. I'm gonna say a little bit about it, and Marie, if you can define dark money a little bit,
sure.
Just because it's critical. Like, you know, the way I interpreted dark money is money that is given to a candidate to be able to control for a very specific issue. Okay. And that specific issue may counter other issues that are actually valuable to the constituents. So the constituents there's a hierarchy that's created. The other definition that's attached to dark money is that it's not what it seems. So it could be like for great environmental education, but it could mean something else. So the names are important, and you illustrated that. Can you define dark money just so people understand, so people
Sure.
don't think it's a big black conspiracy hole, but it's actually a substantive line of funding that people use?
So dark money is usually characterized as money that a campaign receives through an outside source, that on its face is representing one thing, but really is just meant to control. The dark part of the discussion is that we don't know, or we cannot see within FEC filings who's giving to that. So literally, and this is quite literally, the worst people in the world could be putting into that PAC, whether they are a organization or a person. So it's dark, right? We can't see into that PAC and what's being provided. So those overlords, whether they are bully PACs like APAC or they are corporate overlords, then they can be telling the campaign what to do by sheer virtue of their supporting them. So the dark is from don't know who puts into it, but we also don't know what they're really doing. That's why we call it dark PAC.
And one more thing, because what we'll see is when you attend fundraisers or you see press conferences of different candidates, or you see small fundraisers sometimes, now social media is quite problematic in these things. You'll see individuals walking around with candidates, and they are not, you can't see who their names are as a contributor, but it's a good sign for who people surround themselves with. Would you agree, Marie? That's just something I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. So like if you see folks walking around with the APAC overlords, and by the way, the Chicago area, that's where APAC was born. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think that, this is something that's super important about what candidates spend their time in and what elected officials end up spending their time in when they are taking so much money. I mean, what Marie is describing is there's a clear line of how many times you'll see tons and tons of buses and organizations go down to DC or fly to DC or Springfield, any of these places, and they try to advocate for their issues. And you see the same communities going again and again that have the same needs, and they're never, ever answered or responded to. But there are individuals that can take a meeting immediately. They can get a call, respond to me. So these are all good signs of an indication that these are people that are holding financial power over the candidates. And the best way recognize the hierarchy is looking at where is the money going, and why are the same communities that are needing financial help continuing to visit elected officials, following the process of what they think works, but then there's a whole pocket of dark money that Marie is describing that is used kind of not used. I think it's important, and I think that
I think, Maria, you're breaking up a little bit, so you may just want to get off video. I think you may have some
good audio
issues over there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Much better.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So one thing I wanted to also do is break the echo chamber on something that we've all been engrossed for quite a few weeks right now. And I wanted to bring another angle to this whole Epstein issue. Okay. So I think I just watched a beautiful, beautiful interview with Congressman Ro Khanna about just uncovering all of this and uncovering the layers of deception and cover up on this. And he is a Democrat, as people know. He's a progressive Democrat. But one thing that he stated, I think that we all need to listen to break this echo chamber, is how did we allow the creation of this elite to be able to work in this manner? And that is a question for both Republicans and Democrats. How did we allow the individuals that have access to the highest net grossing institutions in academia and in the financial sector to be able to control so much of what impacts policy, number one? We know it's through dark money that Marie just explained, but also how did this cover up occur, and why is it occurring, and how is it successful. And I think, the question, as many people may know, that 2 billion Muslims are celebrating Ramadan and observing Ramadan this month. And there's a lot of spiritual introspection. And one thing I wanted to think about is really these are all individuals from high net paying institutions, which are based on networking and referrals. Okay, networking, referrals, and your social and your professional groups. When these referrals exist and when networking happens, the conversation that happens is, can you open this door for me? And so all of these people are door openers for other people. And when you actually believe, and I'm going to get a little bit spiritual here, please, I'm not going to ask for, I'm not going to apologize for it. But if you believe that humans actually open your doors, this is what gets you into a trap. Because what we've seen again and again with the names coming out on these lists, these are powerful people with elite institutional degrees, and they still have this issue of self-esteem where they feel that humans are opening their doors of access and power and success. And so they are covering up people, because if they don't cover up, humans will close that door on them. And I think there is a huge disconnect here. And so when we think about Republicans not being as forthright in pushing and exposing for the Epstein files, I bring this up to Republicans because Republicans openly talk about faith. And they talk about the significance of faith within the public sector and in schools and in work. And so I really, really want to talk to Republicans about why it is not visible to them that this whole structure is created when there is a detachment from their spiritual faith and their spiritual source. And they put so much investment into humans that are able to now take these doors, close them, open them, and cause chaos. And I think one thing that we have to think about is what Congressman Khanna did say, is how did we allow the creation of elites? So we talked about we created this elite because we allowed people to network and cover each other. But the access started very early. If you look at these elite institutions, these top business schools, these Ivy League schools, these individuals that are coming in and students that are coming in through privilege, and then there's a circle of once they get in, what kind of internships they receive, then who gets hired after the internships, then who gets invited to the private island. We have to start seeing the line of access very clearly as it's tied to things like dark money that Marie is describing. It's all tied to money, access, and power. And once you have money, access, and power, and it's covering each other, and there's a disconnect from what the money is actually supposed to do, you will get people covering other people. And I actually hope, I really, really hope that at this time, just like Marie said, there's 50 Republicans that may sign this legislation for controlling money in corporate money in politics. I hope that Republicans, Democrats can understand that the cover up is caused by the fact that there's really, really individuals that are there for their personal needs, but more and more that they're not loyal to anybody other than their personal needs. This system is created for loyalty, and the loyalty will crack because the loyalty is based on personal gain. So I just think that the Epstein files are something that is something that can break the echo chamber based on the fact that we can analyze where these mediocre individuals, and I mean mediocre based on aptitude and ability, because we know how the access has brought them in. How did we allow the mediocre elite to be able to make decisions at such a large scale? And it's because, honestly, they were able to cover for other people, and people needed covering. I saw a really, really powerful, I don't know, Marie, if you saw this, but I saw a candidate, Annabelle Mendoza. I know that she's been on this show, but she questioned her opponent. I think it was Melissa, right? Melissa Conyers, that he had stated, and she openly stated in that debate. She said, "I know that you're taking money, and I know that you're bought and sold for," and there was silence. There was no defense. So I think the fact that this is being exposed in such a big way, and I want to thank you, Marie, for doing it in a larger way for our audience, is that now that it's being exposed, we can break the echo chamber on this.
That's right.
And we can break the echo chamber on this, and we don't have to politicize it to be like all the Dems are doing this, all the Republicans are doing this. We don't have to do that. We can have a very clear line that we can make from the access that high school students get in these elite institutions, to the internships they're offered, to the networking sessions that they're invited to the private islands and the private meetings where all these things occur that go to place individuals above the law. And so we should not be surprised. We should not be surprised when the administration tries things and is and is wondering, why is everyone shocked that we're trying to go around the law or circumvent the law? This has been the path of success that got us here. You just didn't know the tools, and you didn't know the secret codes of how to read between the lines. And I think this education piece is what is so critical. What is so critical? You know, I went to a private event actually for a charity called Penny Appeal that was beautiful over the weekend. And Bassem Youssef, who's a comedian who does a lot of shows, was there.
Yeah.
And he specifically stated, he said, I'm so disappointed in the media. And so it's so important to have shows like this. I'm so disappointed in the mainstream media because they're talking about Epstein, and they're consistently talking about Trump and Epstein, Trump and Epstein, Trump and Epstein. And he said it's a complete distraction because now you're making it about Republicans, Democrats, right? But the issue is, why aren't we talking about who supported Epstein? Where was he getting his money from? From dark money, from places that funded what his initiative and his goals were. They gave him cover. And I think this all comes back to what Marie started with, where I stepped in and had the opportunity to listen to her, is that these PACs control the candidates, they control the policies that they implement, and they also control the voters by virtue of the fact that they pay money for media ads that can negatively create a persona for someone that's actually positive. And so it's really controlling the messaging to the policy and then to the legislations that are passed. The last thing I wanted to talk about is actually there have, and I think maybe somebody talked about it earlier in the show, is that there was a court ruling that the tariffs were unconstitutional. Marie, did you? I thought that somebody was going to talk about
it. Yeah, I just did a wrap up on it, but please, you're the legal expert here, so please.
It's unconstitutional. And I think that's extremely powerful because it's not just the tariffs, it's the fact that you have to ask permission for Congress. So now this is going to be a template for any other executive order that comes out. It's going to really have to pass a test of what you can actually pass without having to ask Congress. And I think that's what a lot of individuals in Congress are now understanding, and this is going to break the echo chamber as well, is that they're understanding once you can bypass Congress, if you do this within the administration currently, this will be fair game for the next administration. And someone else is going to be on the other side. And so the template of what you actually need permission for Congress is specifically designed to not have unfettered power and make decisions specifically on economics that are going to end up being not the best decision. You know, I know that there's somebody in the administration that specifically says, I look to myself for all the answers. I ask my brain. This is a quote. I ask my brain what the decision is, okay? The whole process of decision making for a government is specifically so you can have the best experts in the room. And we want Congress to be those experts. And Congress can only be those experts if they're not bought by money, and if they are speaking to experts, and the experts that are warning them of the things that are coming ahead. So it was not a surprise that the tariffs were going to be considered unconstitutional. I think the latest thing I read is that Trump responded with a bunch of levies. But what we're going to see now is that similar to what we're seeing with dark money, is that we're going to see big tech, and we're going to see different companies that know that there's competitors out there globally that can harm their position. They're going to push for this ruling to be considered not valid because they want the protection, and they want to be able to play this game with other countries that benefits their monopolies in the corporate structure. So when we talk about tariffs being used as a way to make America better, or to send the message to other countries that you need to deal with us fair and you're taking advantage of us. And actually what it always had meant is that our CEOs in America that are handling things in a way that may not be the most ethical should be protected from doing so and continue to do so. One more thing I want to end with is big tech is under fire right now because different countries have now stated that social media should be banned for individuals that are under 16. I'm fully committed to this to make this a reality in the United States. And obviously now there's open press congressional hearings that have been discussing the cognitive effect of these schemes that big tech is using. And so what you'll see now is that big tech is going to have to start talking about how they're going to respond to the legislation that will make social media banned in the US. And I think that's something we need to think about and we need to look at. And I think that when you see crypto money and you see tech companies now pushing dark money to be able to pay for candidates, it's going to be a mandate of controlling how social media is fed to our masses and to our children and the regulations. That's going to be the next big battle here. And tech companies are going to want candidates to say, listen, there are issues, but we're going to have regulations. But what we are developing is far too important to be victim to a mandate that saves children from our addictive methods. So that's going to be the next big thing. And I think we're going to see tech companies playing a bigger, more public role. And as Marie said, follow the money. Follow the money every time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. Folks, you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, 8:20 a.m., Chicago's progressive talk radio station. You can go back and listen to the entire show on SoundCloud on the WCPT website. Also, we will post this on our website, TLS Radio, for the lightningstrikeradio.com. And on our Facebook and YouTube pages also. So plenty of ways for you to go back and listen to it after your Sunday mornings. And Maria, I know that you might be fasting. It is Ramadan. And for you to go for 20 minutes without taking a breath is incredible. Thank you so much. Okay.
I appreciate you.
Yep. And here's the thing. Again, legacy media is also sold out. We know that. Legacy media is dying. We know that. Social media is the new frontier, folks. And these people are now trying to get their dirty little mitts on social media also. Okay. So we got a concerted effort all over the world, not just in our country. And we were talking earlier today with Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson on the radio over here, Maria, as to what are the social responsibilities of government today, all over the world, not just over here. And how can we bring in some of the principles that Gandhi stood for as followed by, Martin Luther King Jr. over here in our country also. Fascinating conversation we have had. So if you would like to join the conversations, folks, you can always dial in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. We've got about 10 minutes to go. Reed, you want to join the conversation? We have had some fascinating conversations today from Murray and Maria.
Yeah. First of all, I guess we're not going to have Carl Moose today.
I'm waiting for Carl. If Carl joins, we'll bring him in.
Yeah, I like our science segments. But no, we were discussing the tariffs earlier today, I think before Maria and Marie joined us. And I was giving my take on the tariffs too. And it was a no-brainer that the Supreme Court would rule it unconstitutional. It flies in the face of the black letter law in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. It's as simple, there's no nuance to it. But so it doesn't take a lot of constitutional analysis to figure that out. But it's also, this is something that conservatives, traditional conservatives, would of course hand out this kind of ruling. Trump is not a conservative, folks. He does not stand for conservative values. What Trump stands for is using things like tariffs so that he can wield it as a cudgel on foreign countries to get special favors for himself. and he'll deal with these countries. And okay, if you'll give me a piece of land for cheap in Vietnam, I will not charge you any tariffs. That's the kind of way he's used it. Or if some oligarch wants some waiver from some of these tariffs, they pay him a little bribe. Maybe it's an Apple CEO, who knows? And okay, no tariffs on that. That's what it's about for him. I don't think he really believes that tariffs are going to bring back the manufacturing sector of our country, and it's not going to create more jobs here. He's just using that as his ruse, his snowing his MAGA followers to think that he's really still working on their behalf.
Well, Reed, one of the things that I have been following very closely is also this constant attempts to create some kind of a smoke screen as to what is really happening in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that you listen to any of this, the MAGA media, they are trying to bring up, some kind of a distraction, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Marie, I was listening to, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to listen to Tucker Carlson's interview with Mike Huckabee.
I have.
Okay. I mean, that is such a shame that we have a representative of our country based in Israel who is constantly coming up with this trope that Israel has the right to all the land in the Middle East, and Tucker Carlson really tore a new hole into him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't always agree with Tucker.
I don't
sure.
agree with
Tucker. But on
or
this topic, he is really in alignment with the left side of the equation. And actually, there is no international law or Israeli law that supports what these Yahoo says, particularly Huckabee. But Netanyahu says it, his cabinet says it, everybody says it. There's nothing to support it in writing. So that's the fact, right? So but morally, let's just talk about morals for a second, is that under what premise do you think it's okay to overtake a group of people that have been treated so ridiculously, horrifically for decades, a century now?
70 years almost in.
It is striking to me, Mike Huckabee, and let's be clear, when he was Arkansas governor, just remember those days. I want to go back to when he was an Arkansas governor. He received a lot of, I'm going to go tie it back to AIPAC. He received hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars from AIPAC for years and years and years. So I'm just highlighting the grooming and the result that AIPAC has. So after years of giving him millions of dollars, he is told, okay, you can be our representative in Israel, right? And as an ambassador, you can do this, this, and this. And so he stays to these ridiculously insane and inaccurate talking points. But some people believe him because he's a former preacher and he's a former governor, right? Some people believe him, but it's insane.
Well, we have about 4 minutes to end the show today. We also had Senator Mike Simmons as our guest in the first hour, Marie. He's also running in the 9th Congressional District.
You know what I'll tell you about Mike and Anna? So Mike in Illinois 9 and Bushra in Illinois 9 and a few others are really calling out this AIPAC money and this introduction of crypto money and all the things in Illinois 9. So good on them. And then Annabelle and Keena Collins in Illinois 7 have been really calling out Melissa Conyers' ridiculous support from AIPAC. So good on them for standing up.
Yeah, it was refreshing to listen to Mike Simmons. I was not sure when he reached out to come on the show as to what he was going to be talking about.
Right.
But refreshing. He's raised $500,000 from the grassroots.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is amazing.
It's a great candidate.
Yeah, you need to go back and research and listen to these guys. Okay, Bushra Amiwala, great candidate. Grew up in the district over here, knows the district and the issues in the district. And then we got somebody coming in from out of the district just to run in the district as a carpetbagger. Do you think that person is going to stay after these elections? Oh, that person is gone along with the money back that she has collected. Okay. So you need to watch out, folks, for people who seem to have obviously their interest at heart when they come in to represent you. And if they are not local, ignore them, no matter what the polls say, because most of the polls are being financed by these people also, Marie.
Right.
And I don't trust any of these polls that are coming in from these candidate-sponsored polls, or some of the PACs that you're referring to.
Yeah. And who knows, the polls could be right. Here's an interesting thing that happens in the last 4 weeks in every campaign, and this is just a truism in electoral politics, is that when 80% of the population makes their decisions. So any poll that is accurate in week 5 or 4 is likely inaccurate in week 3. Just know that. So like in the Senate campaign or the Senate race right now, there's still 40% undecided, historically high undecided. Historically high. So anything can happen in that Senate race. So know who's being supported by corporate overlords and who isn't in that race.
Absolutely. And it's 9:58, folks, and you're tuned into the Lightning Strike. We come every Sunday morning, 8 to 10, and do support the show. Go to our website, tlsradio.com. As you see, we like to keep commercial advertising to a minimum. We just take a couple of ads from friends of ours, and that's about it. But we do need your support to keep the show going over here. Today's show, we had Read Bible joining us, Mike Patino joining us, Dr. Sheila White joined us, and also we had Maria Muzaffar, Marie Newman joining the show today, and we had Tushar Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's great grandson, joining the show today, which was such a pleasure to hear from him. And thank you again all for listening to the show. Do keep us in your thoughts, folks, and it's going to be one more minute before we finish off the show today. Any final words, Dr. White? If you can unmute yourself.
I'm off of mute. The one thing I want to say is what our special guest said today, the grandfather of the grandson. He said, ideas do not die, even though the body's gone. So we have to remember, great ideas do not die.
Thank you so much, Dr. White. And Marie, I go back to the cartoon that you posted about justice and just eyes. We need to get back to justice in our country like they are doing in other foreign countries. From us and on behalf of all the team over here, folks, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again, same day, same place. Do tune in and do listen to us on the radio at tlsradio.com. This is Mohammed Faheem signing off on the Lightning Strike today.
Bye-bye.